episode 146, Sports Concussion Topics. I'm your host, Dr. Justin Trosclair, and today we Dr. Mansi Vakil Perspective. Join 2017 and 18 Podcast Awards nominated host and best-selling author on Amazon as we get a behind-the-curtain look at all types of doctor and guest specialties. Let's hear a doctor's perspective. Ooh, that's it. That's my Halloween voice for you. No jokes. That's it. I know. I got some dry humor. If you missed that last week at the late November, I'm going to shut it down for a little while as we move to Germany to just kind of focus on family, figuring out a new country, new customs, new job, new everything. So definitely just check out the past episodes, all the series, all the people in between. I'm telling you, there's some really good things. Marketing, cash PT, random topics from here and there, from like sleep to cold laser and marketing. So lots of good stuff, I think, that you can check out. All the social media sites will still have past episodes every day linked. So please don't forget about me. I'll be back. And tell your friends, of course. All right. Today, we have a doctor of physical therapy. And I won't ruin it, but she's into concussions because she started seeing it. And they have weird symptoms sometimes. And when she was reading all these other books, it can be really bogged down on the details to where it's tough for doctors to understand, much less a patient. So she decided, let me just gather everything I can and write my own book. And that's what she did, called Concussion Talks. So we're going to discuss the signs and symptoms of concussions, which is also called mild traumatic head injuries. What can we do about it? What are some warning signs, some misconceptions? That's always important. Ways to recover a little bit faster. And just on time, if you're playing football and you get a concussion, why is that such a bad thing to go back out there the next week? Okay? That's obviously a bad thing, so we'll find out why. And she also is trying to build more publicity for her book because it's just something that patients can understand when they read it, doctors can understand when they read it, and because it's such a male-dominated world out there, she needs some little help. So hopefully after you listen to this, you can be like, oh my goodness, that was amazing. All the coaches that I know should definitely read this book. I'm going to read this book myself and really get the word out because at this day and age with people trying to minimize the concussions as possible, the effects are it can be bad for young kids to experience this. So let's treat them right. I think you're going to like the episode. I think she was walking, to be honest, outside. You'll hear some like random street noises and things. All the show notes can be found at adoctorsperspective.net/146. Let's go hashtag behind the curtain. Live from China in New York, but not New York City. We got a great guest today. She wrote a book on concussion in sports. She's a doctor of physical therapy. It's a very interesting concept for me. It's not something I know a ton about. So I'm really excited to have Dr. Mansi Vakil on the program. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Justin. It's an honor. Thanks for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Well, if you search her name, she's no stranger to being a guest on a podcast, but she's definitely a stranger to our audience. So give us a little background onto a little bit about physical therapy, but also how come you got so involved with the concussion field? Because that's a pretty unique thing, and I'm sure there's some books out there already, but you decided those weren't good enough. I need to do this on my own. What's going on with that?
Sure. So, yes, I grew up in Bombay. I had a pretty vanilla kind of childhood with no turning points. Physical therapy came as an idea, as a profession, after I had a very close cousin of mine who fractured his elbow playing cricket, and he was involved in some of the sports, and just watching him and his family navigate through the treatment and recovery sort of made me realize I wanted to do physical therapy. So this happened over 2 decades ago. I decided that's what I wanted to take up as a profession, and I don't regret that one bit. Dealing with a lot of athletes, sports injuries, what started becoming a common entity in my clinic was parents walking in with kids having a very bizarre set of symptoms like headaches and dizziness. It was common to see torn ligaments in the knee and broken shoulders, but this sort of started becoming a more common in the recent, I would say, in the past year, maybe a little over a year. That started trending, and knowing, having done my doctorate right about that time, I understood that I had done some research into concussions and head injuries, and it really was concerning to see some of these parents who were not really heedless, but they were really unaware of what it meant to have a head injury and what the symptoms would present like, and if there was anything to cure it or were there any treatments. That led to me, I was like, okay, you know what, let's do an evaluation. Let me walk you through what exactly a mild traumatic head injury is, which is basically another name for a concussion. What really happens when you sustain one? What is the recovery, and why it's so vague? Because it is vague. I don't think anybody out there even knows how to define the term concussion, because it's very confusing. So some people misuse the term. We don't know when to use the term in the right way. 30 something books out there. Yes, 30 something books have already been written on concussions. I tried reading some of these books. Some of them are a little too technical, may sound very intimidating. You may not get past the third page without sort of being very worried for yourself or your athletic child. But I feel that's what led me to write my version of the book, which is the language is so much more colloquial. It's not a textbook. It's definitely not a textbook. I tell people when they read this book, they should consider this like a Bible that they could always go back to and read it if they want to know anything, rather everything about concussions in there in a very layman term. The language is very straightforward.
But it's definitely still applicable to the physician as well as, just a parent who has a concern for their kid.
Right, absolutely. So it covers everything from what are my treatment options, who are the specialists that I should seek help from, what are the most recent ways of diagnosing one, what exactly is the anatomy behind it, like why is it that I'm seeing these symptoms, what is exactly happening in the brain, what kind of recent advancements have happened in terms of, we've seen all these helmet changes and we've seen a lot of these protective gears that are newer. Are they better or not? Are they really safeguarding your child? It's really complicated world out there when it comes to these things, but everything is sort of laid down pretty simple and easy to understand language in my book.
So let's talk about this. I watched a video not too long ago about some athlete kid who was doing well, and he had a misdiagnosed concussion. And about maybe 2 weeks later, it was football, he gets hit again. And I guess it's like that double crush, or I'm not sure what the proper term for it is. But anyway, his brain kept swelling and they had to cut part of his skull out. And anyway, he can't talk hardly at all and just really had a terrible, terrible situation. And like, yeah, it's because he had 2 concussions and 2 big hits within a short amount of time frame. So assuming you know about that type of injury, what are some of the first signs and symptoms that we're looking at? How long should somebody wait before they say go back out on the field so that we don't have that second injury? I mean, because it's football. You hit all the time. I don't know.
Right. You can avoid it. Right. Right. Yes. One of the most common, like amongst kids, depends on what age group you're talking about, but headaches are extremely common as one of the most early signs after you've had a head injury. But again, we would probably get a headache just from being dehydrated, or just headaches are a very vague, it's a very vague symptom. You cannot conclude that, oh, my child has concussion just from the child complaining of a headache. But what happens after a few...
Did they have to pass out?
No, 90% of concussions, nobody loses consciousness. That's the tricky part. That's why it's so difficult to diagnose. 90% of cases, you do not lose consciousness. So you have to really, that's why we really look out for these other symptoms to sort of tell yourself or your child that, let's wait it out. Headache is one of the common ones. In the initial stages, of course, if there is swelling in the brain and there is that early stage inflammation, you might see some, like the child is having some sleep disturbances. The child is having the difficulty with paying, attention. We've seen cases where the kid is, the kid might just have problem doing his math homework, which usually wouldn't be the case otherwise. But this could be associated with him probably experiencing an impact injury while he played his game a couple of days ago, and it totally went unnoticed because some of these symptoms take some time to start surfacing. So headaches, sleep disturbances, memory problems with attention. Some athletes have a little bit of some get dizzy and lose their balance. Some have blurring, vision problems. It's a wide variety of symptoms, but you could definitely.
It probably just depends on how you got hit and what part of the brain got injured.
Right. So the frontal lobe is definitely a common area to get affected. These are the parts, the frontal cortex is responsible for executive functioning, memory. Some parts of the brain that get affected are also responsible for mood changes. So you might see a little bit of anxiety kicking in amongst these athletes, all of which can tell you, listen, this child needs to be seen by a specialist. Don't sit at home and wait for the symptoms to ease by themselves. And definitely don't put this child back on the field yet.
Okay. So they're going to go to like a neurologist of some sort, probably.
Sure.
And then maybe at that point, they're like, okay, you're cleared, or this is what's going on. Now you can go to like physical therapy to manage the symptoms and get this thing recuperated quicker.
Right. So a lot of people skip the physical therapy part. I feel like the awareness that we play such a big role in getting these players ready for their sport, I think it's lacking, and I appreciate every parent that walks into my clinic with their kids, because I'm like, great, you know that we do have a major role to play here. Because once the neurologist or the neurophysician or the neuro-orthopedist, whoever has done the initial evaluation, has rolled in or out certain symptoms or has cleared the child, in my opinion, the child has to be tested for, some of these PT-related treatments, PT-related evaluations like biomechanics, biomechanical correction.
Right.
Totally overlooked by neurosurgeons. I don't think many of them even care for how the spine looks or how if the cranial nerves have been tested after the impact, because cranial nerves are important for so many vital functions, and I don't think a very detailed evaluation for that is done by neurosurgeons. So biomechanical correction of the neck, cranial nerve assessment, agility testing, aerobic capacity testing, all of these are not being done yet. And I feel like if these athletes were given a mandatory assessment by a physical therapist, then their return would be much safer. They'll be much safer to return to their sport after their first injury, and we would probably be able to eliminate the really bad consequences of that second impact, what we spoke about, where the child's brain which was already swollen, and he's still recovering from his first injury, and they go back to playing and they get hit again. This probably, if you haven't done a biomechanical correction of the neck, chances of you getting hit again are pretty high. So that's what I think. Yeah, PTs play a big role, and we need to get that word out.
I knew someone, she was shaving her legs, slipped, hit her head on the sink, and I think she blacked out. Anyway, pretty bad concussion, and she's like a study person, not playing really sports, just real, engineering type of classes. And they're like, yeah, you got to kind of just not study for a while and give your brain a break. And we don't really think about that. It's like, yeah, you can't really watch TV. You're not really supposed to study hard. You're just supposed to actually just give your brain a rest. And that's difficult to do if you're in a college where, your GPA is a big deal.
Right. So mental rest, physical rest, again, very controversial topic. Still a lot of research being done. Most recent research suggests that, yes, it's the cornerstone of treatment following a concussion, but you have to also slowly introduce aerobic exercises just to get the oxygen kicking in. You improve your lung capacity, the brain definitely needs oxygen and nutrients. So the healing will just not happen by you sitting down and not doing anything about it. So I believe going on a really good diet that sort of will boost the healing. You want to supplement that with a very low intensity aerobic exercise program to kickstart the recovery. That's what the most recent research has to suggest.
When you're talking diet, is it like a high healthy fat diet, more like protein rich, or what are your thoughts?
It doesn't necessarily have to be protein rich diet, but there are some factors, there are some proteins, there are some vitamins that boost the neuro recovery. Basically, there are some vitamins that just keep the nerves healthy and keep the brain healthy. So I actually have an entire blog written. I have an article on concussion diet on my website if you want to take a look. It tells you exactly what to eat and at what intervals, because there are only a few things that will promote brain recovery or the nerve recovery. Everything else is okay, your muscles and your bones, and you could go online and there'll be a whole bunch of other articles saying, oh, don't drink caffeine. It sort of is a stimulant, but I actually did research and they said caffeine could be good because it improves the metabolic reactions of certain chemicals that are actually healthy for you and for your brain to recover. So feel free to check that article out. But yes, diet is a big one. Diet is a big deal. Nutrition is a very big deal in your recovery process. You just if you really keep up with a good diet and you give yourself the right kind of food at regular intervals, people have recovered sooner than they thought they would have.
Yeah. And before we jump any further, what is your website?
It's Concussion Talks it's a plural talks, concussiontalks.com, and I almost post an article every other day. It's free for anybody to go to, and it's a free resource, very helpful, I believe. Again, I've broken down the language for people to understand. People who don't have experience with the medical terms don't really have to worry about reading these articles.
Give us one of the misconceptions. We might have already covered, and if we did, just say so. What's one of the misconceptions that you find with the concussions and recovery and all of that?
There are so many. Like, I would say people think helmets are doing the job and helmets are going to be keeping their kids safe. That's the biggest one, because I feel they don't understand that the brain has to move only by a quarter of an inch to see for it to be injured. If that's that's research has proven only about a quarter of an inch of a shift in the structures can lacerate the nerve endings, can cause inflammation, can cause swelling, and actually just ruin your life because then your functions are getting affected. I don't think there is any helmet out there yet that's going to eliminate that quarter of an inch of a displacement. No matter what you're wearing, it's inevitable.
Do you think it's a slow progression? We get used to something and it takes more and more stimulus to actually get us the same, like drugs. Sometimes it just takes more and more drugs to get you high. When you start playing at, say, 7th grade, by the time you're in high school, have you had enough hits where, maybe that first year you played, you're like, wow, I was just apparently like in a concussed state for the whole year. And in the second year, you're like, oh, that didn't really bother me as much because you've sort of damaged the outer rim a little bit.
Right. I would say I would say that to some extent that is true, because initially, like I said, if you've ever had your first blow and you haven't lost consciousness, you've probably just had a mild version of it. So your body sort of just self-corrected, and you may have had functional problems, but they were not that pronounced. So you went back to getting hit multiple times. But then the really serious problems kick in. Memory loss, and then dementia kicks in, and then Alzheimer's kicks in for people in their early 40s and 50s. And now you're like, oh my God.
What happened?
You're in a shutdown mode now, and you have social withdrawal, and all of that it's slow progression, 100%. You don't get depressed overnight after a concussion. That depression is coming after months and years of dealing with some of the residual symptoms that you never recovered from, and you just kept fighting them, and you just kept using drugs and all these other kinds of through medication, and very few people actually get therapy for these things. And when it really gets bad is when you get suicide. Like, people get suicidal because now they've never recovered from their headaches. The headaches just kept getting worse. That caused a lot of disturbance in their sleep cycle, and they had this loss of appetite. And now they don't feel they have this social withdrawal going on because they don't feel like they are themselves anymore. And it's sort of a vicious cycle, and that takes years to sort of hit you.
Yeah, and it's Suicide Prevention was sometime this week as far as the awareness day. It blows me away. Like, I guess the people we're seeing now, that's like they were playing maybe 10 to 20 years ago. But I just hope that now that there's enough awareness to say, hey, these are things that's going on. This is what can happen. If you see this, get some psychology help, get some PT. And I just don't know, in small town America, maybe even big town America, if that's actually being conveyed enough by the coaches that there's help out there and seeing these warning signs, because it's just, there's no sense to let it go to that extreme, to be depressed and to have suicidal thoughts when there's so much help out there if you just have to know about it, that there is.
Right. So that was one of the reasons why I wrote this book, because I feel, and my mantra is, awareness is the new prevention. Unless you're going to really educate yourself and become self-aware and, sort of don't be in denial. If it's a problem, it's a problem. Seek help. Don't be afraid. Don't shy away from it. It doesn't make you or your child look weak or anything. Some kids and some parents are just in that competitive spirit, and they are sort of in a state of denial that, oh no, nothing can, just, knock it off, shake it off, you're fine. They have that kind of, and I've seen those parents in my clinic too, where for generations, the family is known for having the best of players in their their genes and their blood.
Yeah.
And they just, if their kid was hit in the head, and I'm like, oh my God, you have to sit him out, and you know what, you might want him to get help from a psychologist because he is looking like he's unhappy and not himself. They just don't want to hear that. So no matter, I don't know if it's even worth spending time or money or any or energy in spreading this awareness, because there'll be always that little population of people that are going to be in denial of these issues, and they'll probably regret not seeking help at the right time and prolonging the recovery by not admitting to by not facing or addressing the issue in time.
Those kind of parents annoy me. It's like, I understand there's only 8 games this season and your kid has to miss 2 and you think they're going to go to the best school, or the baseball kids that play year round and they get Tommy John surgery by the time they're in high school. And you're like, you should not have this surgery. Your kid's not that good. And it should be something like 10 years into what is it? MLS, whatever it is.
Yeah.
No,
NFL.
I don't even know. That's how much I don't care about baseball.
Oh yeah, the MLB.
MLB, yeah. They, those are the guys that get these surgeries. It's just like, you don't even rest your kid. Like, they should take a break. Come on.
Right. That's why I feel like more and more schools, I spoke to a lot of parents, and my simple question would be, has the coach decided to have a little meeting with your parents? So has he ever mentioned head injuries or what? I know every student comes home with a flyer or like a piece of paper with the do's and don'ts and what to expect, which makes its way to the trash can as soon as possible, because I know parents who haven't read that stuff. They admit not reading it, and I don't feel like that's the best way or that's the best method to get the word out. I feel it should be
they should be signed or something.
It should be a more subject. No two kid players are the same, and no two concussions will be the same. It should be a more personal, a more subjective interaction with the parent. It doesn't take that long. Hey, watching your kid play, it is awesome, but I'm just going to give you a little heads up on what head injuries are and what might happen, even though our coaching styles are trying to be, we're trying to keep it as safe as possible for them. Your child might come home with an injury. I'm just letting you know what to expect. None of that is happening. Nobody's doing that.
That's wild.
Yeah. And not everybody's coaching styles are safe. I mean, I've had a patient who coached his son's football team for like over 20 years. Not one kid sustained a head injury just because he said, I kept my coaching style such. I just wanted it to be safe. And that's why I feel like there is hope that we could keep our kids safe, because it all depends on how you coach when they start young. When they start young, how you coach, and it's all about winning. I know the aggression it's a game that requires you to be aggressive, but I'm sure there is a way to tweak that and make it safer.
The practitioners out there who are interested in developing this part of their education because they might have feel like it's lacking. Yes, they've taken a basic course, but if we're honest with ourselves, we're like, the obvious cases we could figure out, but sometimes it's the nuances that would make us better. Whether we're in school or been in the real world for a while, are there any courses that we can take or classes that we should take, or just honestly, just take out my book?
I mean, I know CDC came up with a certification course that sort of makes you aware of what to look out for. I know NFL has the Heads Up program where coaches can get certified, and they sort of have incorporated some of these coaching styles that are safer, and the right ones are these and the wrong ones are these. So those kinds of
Awesome.
certifications and I think programs are available. I think in the United States and Canada and some of these other countries that are taking concussions more seriously than us. But for a therapist, I would say for a PT, I know that we, in our basic education training, we do go through biomechanics is such an important part of our domain. Like PTs are, just the gurus in biomechanics. So I feel like applying those principles to assessing a child with cervical problems shouldn't be that difficult. It's not rocket science for a PT to do the right biomechanical assessment, do the right assessment to test agility and aerobic capacity
Yeah.
of the athlete, to check for cranial nerves. These are the basic things that we need to check off.
Sometimes it's just about a form.
Right.
If you got a form that tells you what to check for, then you check it. If you don't have the form, then you forget.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just that simple.
Yeah, and the neurocognitive assessment is done at multiple. Like I know kids get the baseline assessment they do even before the season begins has a lot of neuro assessment scales on it, like the Glasgow Coma, this and that, which is again something a PT could do. So, but what I want people to understand is that we don't have to only focus on the neurocognitive and the neurological disabilities. Let's look at some of these other factors too, which I believe a PT could definitely do, and they should probably have a physical therapist on field or as an integral part of their team in every school, which is lacking right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a chiropractor, so of course we're going to say it's kind of the same thing. If you got hit hard enough for that to happen, there's probably going to be something going on in your neck that if we can get that to go and moving well, getting those muscles to relax, everything else is going to start to feel better too. It's.
I mean, I'm sure headaches could be eliminated through physical therapy, treatment, chiropractic treatment. You don't have to live with those headaches. Why do you want to live with those headaches? Why do you want to take pills for that?
Headaches were normal.
There are better ways to treat that. And just people are not aware, so people don't know what to do. And there's only so much the coaches can shoulder because they're only one set of eyes looking at so many athletes, kids playing all at the same time. So it'll be good to have a little help around there.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about marketing. And you can go two different ways. You can talk about marketing for your clinic versus marketing, to get the concussion awareness going on. So you can tackle both of those. But we're typically are solopreneurs. We're trying to create a practice that's profitable. We have to market ourselves. What are you finding that's a good return on your investment?
I feel marketing for the clinic is much easier once you even give one patient a good experience. That word of mouth marketing, nothing beats that. No flyers and no digital marketing can beat you making sure you've taken good care of your patients, But when it comes to spreading awareness on concussions and marketing, my book has probably been the toughest job I've ever taken up because, like I said, you're dealing with a crowd that, first of all, for me, it's a male-dominated field. It's dominated by male. So for me, as a woman trying to tell people to change the world of football, it may not be taken very well. It may not be accepted at the same level as against a male, somebody like you who is trying to spread the same message. So that's why I come to you. And
that's messed up, right?
It is messed up, but yes, I need your help. And the other thing we do, I see, again, you have to get yourself out there. So I go to a lot of schools and talk to the PTA, and I feel like parents are the ones who will make, or who can make the big difference here. If you convince them that there is a way out of this whole problem and there is a solution and you just have to believe me and work with me on this, if you convince the parents, I feel like then you've really, half the battle is won right there. So getting yourself out there personally, I know it's impossible for me to be at thousands of schools across the country and trying to deliver that message in person everywhere is not going to be easy, but that's where I've started. And then, of course, you have marketing through social media platforms, which, again, is hit or miss.
Yeah, really. Oof, that's a tough one. I mean, you almost have to partner with organizations that are already out there, bringing awareness for something, but that's already national. It's like if you can find those and then hobnob your way into those groups,
Right.
provide value,
Right.
then all of a sudden you're like, oh, here's a book that you can all read. Okay, cool.
Right.
Then, but
You saw, yeah.
there's only so much time in a day sometimes. It's like, do I have to pay somebody to do all of this work for me? Because I don't have time for all this.
Right. That's when you have to start delegating, and you have to work smarter and not harder, because then you can't be everywhere. I feel podcasts are such a good way to spread the message, because I really appreciate this platform more than anything else. I feel it definitely changed. It was a game changer when it started, and now more and more people are using it as a platform. Just it's not always about marketing, but it's also such an easy way to spread to give out a strong message without having to worry about being judged and face the person.
Yeah.
It's just people will get critical about what you have to say, but I feel this is a very safe way to get the word out and spread the message. So I'm really thankful again for you to have me on your as your guest. Yes.
No problem. I mean, that's what I like you were saying about podcasts is everyone you go on, whether they have 100 downloads or 400, 5,000, that's people that you didn't know and you didn't have any contact with, and you didn't have to market to yourself. It's there. They listen to it, and who knows who those people are and what platform they have to help boost your own message. So I like that a lot. I want to respect your time, so we'll just switch gears yet again. Okay, this is the fun part. I call it the more personal side of the interview. When we have our own clinic, we have a lot of responsibility, and it's kind of hard to take vacations. Are there any way that you're able to shut it down and get that recharge that you need? Or how are you able to do that, I should say?
So yes, I think again I would repeat. I would say work smart, do not work hard. Because if you're gonna work hard, you're never gonna find time for yourself or your family. You just gotta be smart about what you do. So the one thing I did after I authored the book, I reduced my clinical hours. That's when you start delegating. You start getting more people in to help you out. So I reduced my work hours. I don't work every day now. I only work 3 days of the week, and I make sure that when I'm working those 3 days, I put in my 100%, and then I use the rest of my time to participate in activities I have a 5-year-old, so just participate in activities that he likes, and focus on myself and focus on other things which I'm passionate about, which is currently my book. And then occasionally I would take vacations. Like I had mentioned before, I am from Bombay, so I make sure I go back home every year to see my family. And that alone sort of is an energy booster that lasts for the whole year after I'm back. So yes, the key is to work smart, not work hard.
Okay. And that was another one, is on a day-to-day, week-to-week, finding that work-life balance. That is a different question. You kind of answered. Let's see if you have a different one. When we're talking about work-life balance, like you said, you have a 5-year-old. What does that look like on a weekly or daily basis so that you're not overwhelmed with work, with charts coming home after work? You said you might have hired someone,
right,
to take your place when you're not here?
Right. So, you sort of, there are so many softwares out there, and there's so much. Things have gotten easier. If you go digital, if you reduce paperwork by just getting the right. I feel like we've switched from doing more stuff on paper, and then we've gone digital. So having gone digital has helped a lot. Definitely keeping my work at work is also important. I seldom come home with paperwork, because it's very easy to do that. It's very easy to just be like, you know what, I'll just bring this home. I bring this pile of charts and files home, and I'll take care of it once I put my son to sleep or whatever. I don't think I do that much. I
don't want to do that.
I restrict myself from doing that. So otherwise, it's so easy to do it though. It's so easy to just tell yourself, you know what, I'm just going to bring this home. But if you stop yourself from doing that, that's when you've really done yourself and your family a favor, because now you really have time for the real things, and you're not like sucked into work. You're not on the clock 24/7. Not responding to work emails or emails related to so whatever, they could wait till till the next day. It's not a life or death situation. You could always deal with all that once you go back.
Yeah, we don't have too many of those.
Right. We don't. We're not. We do help. We are practitioners that for a lot of patients feel we play a more important role in their lives than their surgeons or doctors do. But again, that could wait if they have any. I usually don't respond to any patient emails or whatever in after I've clocked out. I'm done. So I think just those habits that you form make a big difference, and it takes a while to sort of get yourself out of it, because it's very easy for me to if I have a patient who says, the so and so is a problem, how can I fix it? It's very easy for me to just be like, let me give you that advice right away.
Yeah, let me just take 5 minutes in this email.
Right, but it's only 11 p.m. at night, but let me do it anyways. No, we don't want to do that, so...
setting up a monster of a situation later on when you decide to change.
Right, but that changes help too.
And what about keeping the love alive so you don't end up divorced? What you got for us? Any secrets?
Oh, I think I'm contemplating that every day. No, I think my husband and I take up at least one activity to do in common every weekend. So be it he likes hiking, so be it hiking or just taking up a dance class, or just just going for a really long walk. Besides, like it could be something very basic as just literally, let's just go on a long walk together, or just let's go bicycling together without the child or without anybody else, just the two of us. So we end up doing that once a week only, though. And I think that's been working.
That's great, though. You need that.
Yeah, that's been working. We're still together. It's been 10 years, and we're hoping we can sort of work it out for the next as many years as possible.
Yeah. Oh, what kind of dancing are you doing? I'm curious.
Well, we are big Bollywood fans. So in our community, we do have these little programs they have for Bollywood dance. So if they have something over a weekend, they usually have it on weekdays too. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. Nobody's judging anybody. But we're doing it together, so that's fun.
I'm going to make you laugh maybe a little. One of my most favorite Pandora stations over the last probably 4 months is a mix of movie soundtracks and Bollywood workout, like I guess it's just movie soundtracks of like high-end Bollywood music. And we just have it blaring in the house, and my little baby's like bouncing and watching me dance with her.
Go for it. It's therapeutic.
It's so fun.
It is fun. I love it. Bollywood has it's different. It's the beats, and don't take the lyrics that seriously, but go for the beats.
Don't worry, we don't know what they're saying anyway.
Right. I don't know sometimes what they're saying. I don't blame you. So I would say just the beats are fun. They sort of get your vitals to go up, and they keep you. They're very peppy. So that's a good choice.
Yeah, that definitely. My father-in-law, where they from in China, they have similar-ish kind of music, but like the dancing kind of with the hands in the air and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so when I watch him dance, and you watch some of the videos, and you're like, huh, that's kind of similar. And so like he kind of goes into it. So it's been fun. It's fun to watch and
that's a great blend.
Get down with it.
Yep. Don't give up on that station hour.
Well, to wrap things up, do you have any favorite books, blogs, or podcasts that you secretly love, and ones that you think other people should definitely check out?
Right. So I feel like all of us need a mentor in our lives. You don't sometimes find them in person. So what I started doing is, yes, podcasts are my way to get a little mentoring and to just get some advice from some people who are more experienced than me, who've seen life, in different shades, and sort of have a strong message to give out. My favorite book so far has been 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. I think it's the greatest book ever. I mean, he's a great author. I think he's written 6 books, and they've all been bestsellers. But this is one book I usually go back to on a very regular basis. I feel like because he's picked up real life experiences to justify these laws and how they can be so impactful and how they can be a game changer for not only your personal, for growth personally, but also professionally and career-wise. So if you haven't read this book, you gotta, as soon as we're done with this podcast, you're getting on it. It's called The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
And at least get the summaries out there, y'all. If you've never noticed, if you've never done this, I've done this a couple times. I've heard people, different books, like, oh, you definitely got to read this book. And I'm like, boy, there's so much time in a day. So I'll like Google a nice review, and you can get like a 10-page review from somebody else who's read it. And I'm like, well, that's the main points. If I want to learn more, I can go back and read it. Now, 48 laws, that's a lot to put down into a summary.
Right.
But you might be surprised what you find out there, guess.
I'm telling you, you're going to love it, especially because, I see you, we sort of have some synergies in terms of where we are career-wise and what we're trying to achieve here. And if I could relate to it, I'm sure you will definitely relate to it. To summarize, I would say it just talks about general rules about how you have to be, like one of the rules he speaks about is keeping your intentions and keeping your goals to yourself, like not being overly expressive about them, because you don't want your competitors to sort of start sensing them and destroy things for you. But at the same time, you sort of want to misguide them while you're keeping your intentions personal. It's tricky. It's hard. I don't know if I'm putting it the right way, but isn't that crazy?
No, it's intriguing enough to make you want to read it. That's for sure.
There you go. It's so funny. I'm like, wow, very interesting. So you keep talking about your intentions, but they are not really your true intentions. So that way your competitor is sort of going with you on that, totally not aware that you are working on something else altogether. Because if you go silent and you don't talk about anything at all, that sort of also gets people, it looks suspicious. So one of the laws is like, just, go about expressing your intentions, but not the actual intentions. So isn't that intriguing? I'm sure I want to pick up that book right now and be like, what is this all about?
Yeah. Well, I had heard from somebody, who knows where it was, but they were saying, be careful with how much you do tell someone, because if you tell the wrong people, they end up being haters and they squash your dreams. And you're like, whoa, that was the opposite of what I was hoping for. And so sometimes you got to keep some of these things a little bit closer to the chest so that you don't get all this negative feedback when you could have done it if you just stayed a little quiet.
Yeah. Yep. On similar lines. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Mansi, how can people get in contact with you, find out more information? Could be the same website you gave earlier so that guests can reach out.
Yeah, so it's the website, www.concussiontalks, with an S, concussiontalks.com. My email is on it. It's Mansi@concussiontalks.com. If anybody wants to reach out, have any questions, they could also purchase my book through Amazon and through my website. But again, I'm totally open to answering any questions. If anybody's not sure about, if they have a family member who's sustained a head injury, they're not sure where to start, feel free to reach out. I'm totally open to answering any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking some time with us today, getting us more aware of concussions and what you can bring to the table. And I do hope that you'll make a few sales and nothing else. And again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Likewise, it was an honor, Justin. I think you guys do a great job hosting us, and these podcasts are such a great platform for me to just spread the word out, and I appreciate your time.
Another great interview has ended. While you're on your phone, click that review button. Write up a nice review for me. 5 stars if you could. As everyone says in the industry, it'll help other people to find us when we have enough rankings. Not to mention, I'll mention you and your review on an upcoming episode. If you follow me at all on Instagram, you only get one link. So I use a Linktree. And so it's a doctorsperspective.net/links with an S. And that's going to give you everything you need to know. The top episodes of 2017 and 2018, the podiatry series, dentist, acupuncture series, holiday 2017, financial series, how to write a review, how to support the show, like buying a cup of coffee, getting swag, like t-shirts, the Today's Choices, Tomorrow's Health book. That's the blueprints for better health, exercise, picking food correctly, and financial. And then, of course, bundle packs, which can get you the No Needle Acupuncture book for 40 common conditions, including the electric acupuncture pin at a great deal. The resources page has some of the products that I like. It's affiliate style, so if you buy something from them, I get a piece of that. Just like on the show notes pages, if you buy a book from clicking that link, I get a small piece of that as well. So I really appreciate that. Things like Screencast-O-Matic, Pure VPN, Missing Letter, JLab speakers, Prolone, Edge, or Hawk grips. Once again, if you do need any coaching on how to improve some of your blood work, drop weight, and the Prolone diet, fast mimicking diet, 5-day plan, let me know. As well as if you just need some coaching, whether it's health, whether it's marketing, whether you need some practice growth, etc. Reach out. Facebook, Justin Trosclair, MCC. Of course, out of doctorsperspective.net on the top right, you got all the social media icons that you can imagine. Click your favorite and reach out. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please tell a friend, pass it along. You can go to .net/listen. It's just that easy. It'll open up right in your app. And don't forget, I appreciate you. Listen, critically think, and integrate. See you on the mini-sodes on Thursdays and Saturdays. Hope you're enjoying those. I'm definitely having fun summarizing these podcasts in less than 10 minutes for you. You get the nuggets without having to waste your time. Have a great week. We just went #behind the curtain. I hope you will listen and integrate what some of these guests have said. By all means, please share across your social media, write a review, and if you go to the show notes page, you can find all the references for today's guest. You've been listening to Dr. Justin Trosclair, giving you a doctor's perspective.